just like that, the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix has come and gone, full of action, overtaking, and a handful of Red Bull dominance. So, let's talk about it all in race recap. Before the weekend even fully got underway, Ferrari were under pressure once again as it was announced that Charles Leclerc will be getting a 10-place grid penalty for having to replace his control electronics unit. But now let's move on to qualifying. The first big talking point in qualifying happened in Q2 when Max Verstappen would have a drive shaft failure, meaning he would be out of qualifying and he would finish P15. Oscar Piastri in the McLaren had actually a superb qualifying, with his teammates hitting the wall. This meant that Oscar Piastri would actually finish in P8 with a superb qualifying for the rookie. Lewis Hamilton in the Mercedes had a pretty tough time as he would finish the qualifying 4/10 slower than his teammate George Russell, who would finish qualifying in P4. Fernando Alonso in the Aston Martin kept up the pace and finished P3 in qualifying, only behind Charles Leclerc in P2, who's behind eventual pole sitter Sergio Perez. With Leclerc's penalty, that meant that he will be starting in P12, with Alonso and many other drivers moving one spot up the grid for Sunday's Grand Prix. Now let's talk about the race. On lap 1, Fernando Alonso would overtake Sergio Perez to take the lead of the Grand Prix on the first lap. It would come out very shortly that Fernando had actually started the race in the incorrect grid position. For this, he would receive a 5-second penalty, which he would have to serve at his next pit stop. Also on the first lap, Oscar Piastri would unfortunately fall down the field as he would collect front wing damage on his McLaren and would have to pit for repairs. On lap 4, the ultimate pace of Sergio Perez's Red Bull came unleashed as he would overtake Fernando Alonso to retake the lead. By lap 13 of the race, both Verstappen and Leclerc had cut their way through the field, with Verstappen now P8 and Leclerc P6. On lap 18, Lance Stroll would retire his Aston Martin and pull off to the side of the track. This would cause Fernando Alonso to serve his time penalty in the pits, as well as the 2 Red Bulls come in for a free pit stop. On lap 21, the race restarted with Sergio Perez holding on to the lead of the Grand Prix. On lap 25, Verstappen would finally catch up to Fernando Alonso and would overtake him to take P2 in the race. He was only 5.7 seconds away from overtaking Sergio Perez to lead the Grand Prix. As the race settled down, the Mercedes of George and Hamilton slotted into P4 and 5, and behind them, both Ferraris of Sainz and Leclerc were settling down in P6 and 7. So, the race would finish and Sergio Perez would actually hold off Max Verstappen and take P1 to win the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix. In P2, we have Max Verstappen, and then in P3, taking his second podium in 2 races, would have Fernando Alonso. Or did we? It would come out right after Fernando left the podium that he would apparently receive a 10-second time penalty for the team having served his 5-second penalty incorrectly at the pit stop. The regulations state that when serving a time penalty, the team may not touch the car or begin working on the car. So when Alonso came in for his pit stop, footage showed that the rear jack of the car was slightly touching the Aston Martin. However, immediately as this penalty was given, Aston Martin petitioned for a right of review to call this decision into question. They argued that there's no agreement in the regulations that the jack touching the car counted as working on the car. They also provided some video evidence, and Fernando would actually have his podium reinstated. So at the end of the day, a lot of noise, but yes, Fernando did finish P3 in the race. So what are the main talking points from the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix? Well, the championship might still be on, with Sergio Perez actually beating Verstappen on pace. Aston Martin continued to have their strong pace with a second podium in 2 races. Ferrari still struggling for pace, now even falling behind Mercedes in this race, and it's really not looking good for the Ferrari outfit. McLaren are also continuing to struggle, with both drivers unfortunately finishing P16 and 17 in the race. So in just 2 weeks time, we're going to be heading to Melbourne, Australia for the 3rd race in the Formula 1 season. Hopefully it's going to be a bit more action, a bit more drama, and honestly, I can't wait for it. So I'll see you then.